Trump's 75-country visa freeze starts January 21st. What to do now? On January 14, 2026, the Trump administration announced they are freezing all visa processing for 75 countries. This is going to go into effective on January 21st, 2026. This is official. It's legit. The State Department posted this on social media just a few hours ago, and the White House press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, also confirmed it. Here's what we know right now. The Trump administration State Department posted this on their official account. Quote, the State Department will pause immigrant visa processing from 75 countries whose migrants take welfare from the American people at unacceptable rates. The freeze will remain active until the U.S. can ensure that the new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people. They followed up with another post saying, the pause impacts dozens of countries, including Somalia, Haiti, Iran, Brazil, and Yemen, among others, whose immigrants often become public charges on the United States upon arrival. We are working to ensure that the generosity of American people will no longer be abused. Now, the word indefinitely is causing a lot of panic online, understandably so. Let me be clear about what this means from a legal perspective. There's no set end date, but it doesn't necessarily mean forever. These type of indefinite suspensions have happened in times past. In fact, this just happened with a list of 39 other countries just earlier this month. All right, according to the Fox News reporting, consular officers will be specifically looking at a number of factors, including health, age, weight, oddly enough, English proficiency, financial resources, previous use of government cash assistance, and the potential need for long-term medical care. Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a significant expansion of previous implementations of the public charge rule, including under the previous Biden administration. Here's the thing. How do public benefits actually work in the United States? I think this is important to understand because the stated rationale for this freeze may not really line up with reality. So the stated reason for this freeze is public charge concerns. Essentially, the idea that immigrants, foreign nationals from these countries are coming here and taking welfare benefits from Americans, from us, the American people. However, as a general rule, non-immigrants, basically those who are on temporary visas, cannot obtain public benefits. If you're here as an F1 student, an H-1B work visa, B1, B2 tourist visas, L1 international transfers, or J1 visas, you're generally not eligible for federal public benefits in the first place. You cannot get SNAP, you can't get food stamps, you cannot get TANF, cash assistance, you're not able to obtain regular Medicaid, you can't get SSI, and you cannot qualify for federal housing assistance. So these programs are specifically restricted to U.S. citizens and certain categories of lawful permanent residents, green card holders, who've been in the U.S. for a certain period of time. If you're here on a temporary visa, you're already, by default, locked out of these programs. There is one exception to this, and that is emergency Medicaid. Emergency Medicaid is available to anyone in the U.S. regardless of their immigration status. So if you are in a life-threatening medical emergency, and I've had several clients in this situation, unfortunately, for example, you've been in a serious car accident or you go into preterm labor or some other medical crisis, the hospital will treat you and emergency Medicaid can cover that. I would understand if the Trump administration was taking these types of factors into account to avoid this type of welfare benefit usage. But emergency Medicaid already does not count against you for public charge purposes, and it never has. Now, essentially, if you are a non-immigrant who's had a medical emergency while you were here, you don't need to panic because this will not and cannot be used against you under the public charge rule. Again, I don't mean this from any sort of political perspective whatsoever. I'm just here to give you the facts and help you understand what the rationale is for this type of visa freeze to go into effect. All right, let's talk about the list of what countries are implicated here. Before I read this list, I just want to point out that the original Fox News article that broke this story did not include the full list of 75 countries. It only named about 10 of them. Somalia, Russia, Afghanistan, Brazil, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Nigeria, Thailand, and Yemen. Those are the ones they specifically named. The State Department's Twitter account also listed Haiti and Eritrea, but I have seen other news outlets release what appears to be the unofficial list. Again, we have not seen the actual State Department memo yet. As of January 14th, the day of this announcement, the official notice has not yet been released. So while this list is circulating in a number of different outlets and appears credible, I can't 100% confirm this list will be the same as the official memo that gets released. And I'm going to put a link for that here. If you go to travel.state.gov, you'll be able to see the actual visa news announcement as soon as that actually drops. Here is the unofficial list of the countries that are included. We've got Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, Antigua, Barbuda, Armenia, Azerbaijan, the Bahamas, Bangladesh, Barbados, Belarus, Belize, Bhutan, Bosnia, Brazil. This one was incredibly surprising. Burma, Cambodia, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Colombia. Also incredibly surprising. The Ivory Coast, Cuba, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Dominica, Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Fiji, Gambia, Georgia, Ghana, Grenada, Guatemala, Guinea, Haiti, Iran, Iraq, Jamaica, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, Kuwait, Kyrgyzstan, Laos, Lebanon, Liberia, Libya, Macedonia, Moldova, Mongolia, Montenegro, Morocco, Nepal, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, Republic of the Congo, Russia, maybe not that big of a surprise, Rwanda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, not a surprise at all, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Tanzania, Thailand, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, and Yemen. It's a lot of countries. All right, so this list that I have here in this video is being widely circulated by a number of news outlets. As soon as we get official confirmation from the State Department, we can update this video to reflect that. And again, I would continue to check the visa news page at the Department of State website. A few things I want to point out are the countries who are not on this list. China is not on this list. India is not on this list. The Philippines is not on this list. And Mexico is not on this list. A number of people online are speculating about why certain countries are included and others aren't. I'm not going to get into the politics of that. What matters for this video is your country on this list and what do you do about that, if so? Just to be clear, this memo applies specifically to the Department of State. It affects visa processing at U.S. consulates and embassies abroad. The president's plenary authority, essentially his broad power over immigration, applies specifically to the entry and exit of foreign nationals. That means the State Department, which handles visas for people trying to enter the country. This does not apply to U.S. citizenship and immigration services domestically in the U.S. If you are already in the United States and you have a case pending with USCIS, even if you don't, but as an example, let's say you have an adjustment of status, a naturalization citizenship application, you're waiting for a work permit or some other change of temporary status here, this memo would not apply to you. This is important. So just one point I want to discuss here. I've seen a number of reactions online. A lot of people are concerned whether this visa freeze will apply to those who are applying for adjustment of status. I've seen people mention, hey, my wife is from Brazil. We have a pending adjustment of status application. Will this negatively affect her application? When previous visa bans have gone into effect, you could think of the current travel bans or the travel ban that was in effect in 2019. USCIS in practice has delayed these adjustment of status applications from these countries, but it did not result in an outright ban or refusal to process those. The only one that I have personally seen in my career that has negatively impacted adjustment of status is the current pause memo in place from the 19 specific countries for those who may be implicated in essentially terrorism related concerns. If you're in the middle of the adjustment of status application and you're from one of these 75 countries, I can't promise you for certain that your case won't be affected because we do need to see how USCIS responds to this memo. But I do want to point out that the president's authority to unilaterally affect immigration is limited to the entry from abroad. So that's why the State Department is able to issue this type of memo. The president on his own cannot do that with USCIS. I would actually liken this to similar planning that we saw in effect with the $100,000 H-1B visa fee. It's just going to require advanced planning before we know all of the details as they get rolled out. All right, let's talk about what to do if you're currently here in the US on a temporary visa status. If you're currently here with any sort of temporary visa and you are from one of these 75 countries, you should strongly consider deferring any international travel. Why? I mean, it probably is obvious, but if you leave the US and you need to get a new visa stamp abroad from your foreign consulate, you could be stuck. If visa processing is frozen for your country, you may not be able to get this stamp. Now, it wouldn't surprise me yet, without the official announcement going into effect, that there will be specific exceptions to the visa freeze, whether it is for third country nationals. You could think of those who have, let's say, Brazilian nationality, who also have Italian passports, and so they can qualify for an investor visa or the visa waiver program. There may be exceptions for that. There may be exceptions for immigrant visas for immediate relatives of American citizens. There may be exceptions for those who are coming to help the US in the national interest. For example, it wouldn't surprise me to see those who work for prominent international companies. You could think of the Korean factory workers in Georgia who are working for Hyundai to be exempted from this type of visa freeze. Again, we're going to have to wait and see for the specifics, but it would not surprise me if those exceptions were in place, just given the strength of certain lobbying groups and the economic necessity of some of these foreign workers. I will fully expect there to be at least some exceptions in place here. All right, I'm going to talk about a number of other concerns, and this is going to be my personal speculation based on what has been released so far. Again, this is subject to change once the official announcement goes into effect, but I'm going to give you my opinion on this right now. Let's say you have a pending I-130 petition for your family member abroad, and that family member is from one of these 75 countries. Remember that the I-130 itself is processed by USCIS. However, after the I-130 is approved, your family member is going to need to go through consular processing at an embassy in order to get the immigrant visa. So let's say that you're Brazilian and you're sponsoring your wife abroad for an immigrant visa. She will have to get an immigrant visa interview in Rio. Now, that's the particular step that could be frozen depending on the interpretation and enforcement of this visa freeze. Let's give another scenario. Let's say you have a pending N400 citizenship application and you're from one of these 75 POS countries. Again, this memo is specifically about visa issuance abroad. Your naturalization application should not be directly affected with USCIS. Yes, this is a significant announcement. And yes, the fact that this visa freeze is indefinite is somewhat unsettling. Panicking doesn't help at all. Let's just talk about what we need to do from a practical situation instead. All right, if you already have an appointment at a consulate that's going to take place before January 21st and you are outside the country, I would try to keep that appointment so that way you can at least try to get that visa. How likely is it for them to process your visa in light of this announcement? It may be unlikely, frankly, but it does not officially go into effect until January 21st. So that is worth noting. I said it before and I'm going to say it again. Do not leave the country unless you absolutely have to if you are from one of these 75 POS countries. I would make sure, obviously, this is self serving. I would talk to an attorney first before you leave and discuss your potential re entry options and whether your travel is actually necessary for you to do so. Yeah, so just to close, I'm going to stay on top of this story. I wish we knew more specifics here. The more we have more details, whether it's the actual memo language, the official list, if there's any guidance from USCIS, and of course, any exceptions, I will put a video up to break that all down. In the meantime, I would just bookmark the State Department Visa news page and just continue to monitor that once the official notice comes out. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And let me know if you have any other questions. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.